All right, ladies and gentlemen, can you sense the quiver in my voice? Because the next session is magnificent. It is broad, it is diverse. It's actually, technically and statistically speaking, the largest session that we are doing today in terms of panel. It's going to be a lot of fun. I want you guys to take notes. And remember the people in the back seat. The energy. Can we have a huge round of applause for the next session before I announce it? All right, the phrase "content is king" has never been as relevant as it is today. With Indian consumers being spoiled for choice with a plethora of options, streaming services available to them, the only way the platforms can woo consumers is through high-quality stories. The consumers too, all of us here in this room, have evolved. All of this has led to a massive change in the way content is being created today. And that's why it gives me immense pleasure to invite the coolest table right here in the front on stage. A huge round of applause as I announce each and every name. It should be louder subsequently for every name. The first one, it's my honor to have on stage Jyoti Deshpande, President Media and Content Business at Reliance Industries Limited. Monika Shergill, VP Content, Netflix India. I can hear the tudum right there. Vikram Malhotra, Founder and CEO, Abundantia Entertainment. Ram Madhvani, filmmaker, director and producer. And Kiran Rao, filmmaker who needs no introduction. A huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. And this session will be moderated by Ajita, Shashidhar, and in the spirit of diversity and inclusion, I will also join the proceedings. Okay. There's a slight tremble in my voice because this is way out of my leagues, way out of my depths. Monika, the first time that I came to you on a show, I'd asked you whether I could audition for a reality show, if you remember, many years ago.
Yes, I remember.
I never made it there. I'm clearly over here on stage. That's how life pans out. But now someone told me this is the biggest audition of my life. Because if Monika doesn't answer the call, there's very, very illustrious mega names here who might just give me a shot. I've been learning my lines, I've been working out, almost ended up breaking my hand, Jyoti.
All roads lead to Monika.
Tudum, that's our Tudum moment. This is going to be a fun session. Ajita, we're going to have a great time, and I promise you we're going to cover the length and breadth of this stage. Monika, we're talking about the changing face.
Can I just say, since we were waiting backstage, they have all ganged up to have
Really?
fun. And they said for every question, they'll say, oh, all roads lead to Monika. So I'm not going to answer anything. Please ask
I mean,
them
it's
first.
not like I was in on it, but I
happen.
am going to be following that rationale for the rest of this conversation, since all roads lead to Monika. Monika, the changing face of content. And it's interesting because over the past few years, content consumption patterns have changed here in India. What we like, what we consume, and more importantly, the stories really matter. It could be language, and culture agnostic. We're very interested in seeing all sorts of content on our OTT platforms. How have you been viewing this from your end at Netflix India? Because we've seen some of the most iconic shows, and they don't necessarily have to be made for the Indian audiences. We actually have some great scripts, some great stories that are made in India for the rest of the world as well.
I think the audience is dramatically evolving every single day. In fact, I would go so far as to say that the audience has become the creators themselves. So everybody has a phone in hand, everybody has a lot of creators' tools now, and they're watching so much which is coming at them, whether it is something we are making in our industry as professionally finished, curated content in any format that it might be, or it is coming from far off shores, different countries, different cultures. And what is happening is that everything that they're watching, whether it is a small joke, or it is a film, or it is a full series that they're watching, or a chat show, or anything, on open platforms or curated platforms, it's evolving their taste at a very fast pace, which doesn't mean that what we knew has ceased to work. I think when you have too many options, it's like I see a lot of people, I think you've kept too much food there and many options, so I can see different people having different kinds of things to eat and drink, when you have so many options of different kinds of stories, formats, and you have the pick from anywhere you can take, it becomes really important for us to become more intentional in our approach to how do we tell those stories, what are the emotional truths of that story, how are we balancing tradition with innovation, and zeitgeist in our stories, how are we balancing, and I would say from a platform perspective, how do you balance intuition with some amount of data that you see, but it's primarily intuition. And with all the tools that are available, how do you keep the legacy things going and yet, honor transformation as you're telling stories? So I think we have to be very close to our audiences. They are giving us cues every single day with what they're watching, what they're rejecting, what they're loving more of. We see that in every medium. So I think they are the biggest truths right now.
Taking Monika's point ahead, Jyoti, I would like to come to you. So, as you know, the June issue of Fortune India was an entertainment special, and I learned a lot from all of you, and I picked up a lot of words, as you talked about content becoming much more individualistic, much more rooted in culture, and language, nobody really cares whether the content is in Malayalam, Telugu, or Bengali. As long as it's good, everyone watches it. So, and you have put together a lot of interesting content, which I would say is rather bold, like Article 370, then 3. I'll come to her. So it'll be interesting to hear from you as to how has the audience evolved over the years, because you've been in the industry forever, for almost 3 decades, if I'm not mistaken. So how has the audience evolved? How different is the audience today from what it was many years ago, what they were many years ago?
So I think taking a cue from, what Monika was saying, the audience is absolutely spoiled for choice. And as storytellers, we are focused on stories rather than platforms. So we are thinking about a script and a story and seeing how culturally relevant is the story. Who is it going to appeal to? Why should this story be told at all? Will it have any purchase? Will it have any chance of becoming part of pop culture? Is any character or the world of that story likely to be part of a dinner table conversation or social media? Will it get any traction? So these are things that we think about. Not whether are we making it for OTT or are we making it for theaters or will someone watch it on the mobile. So last year we had an Article 370, we had Lapata Ladies, we had a Stree, we had a Shaitan, Singham. So it was a diverse sort of portfolio of different genres of story, many of them women-driven, many of them with social messages while being wildly entertaining, commercial as well as critical, acclaim. So I don't think there is any sort of magic formula, but I think it's important to break clutter, not just follow a fad. We tend to, in our industry, generally try and ride a fad until the fad is not a fad anymore. And some of us then just get caught in the wrong end of the fad. So I think it's important to listen to the consumers, ride the wave, create the wave, rather than trying to follow the wave.
Kiran, I would now like to come to you. So you've always made films which catered to a particular niche. But Lapata Ladies broke all records. And, it not only it was a blockbuster, it not only did well in the theater, on Netflix, but it also kind of, it kind of broke all, you also got nominated for the Oscars. So, what really went into creating Lapata Ladies? Did you ever imagine it to be such a big success? And also, do you think the Indian audience is really ready to consume these kind of films?
Honestly, I don't think any of us could have predicted what the kind of success and love that the film got. We made it with, conviction. I had a producer who found the story for me and allowed me to make it the way I wanted to make it, Amir. I had a producer, Jyoti, who took it to the whole world, sold it like it was a blockbuster film. And everybody believed in this story. And I think what we learned from the experience of putting that film out was what I think exactly what Jyoti and Monika said, which is that stories, connect with people regardless of maybe tastes have changed, maybe our, attention spans have shortened. But if you have a good story, I think you have an audience. And in fact, Lapata Ladies was one of these interesting films which was running in cinemas when it actually came on Netflix. And contrary to what people believe, where, coming on a streamer would harm the film, it blew up on Netflix. It became so popular on Netflix that it actually got more cinemas. And more people went to cinemas to watch it as well. And of course, it continued to do very well on Netflix. So I'm of the opinion that, theatrical, streaming, all of us are part of a creative industry where we want to see good stories told and we want more audiences at home watching, in cinemas watching, sort of engaging with what we make. And I think Lapata gave us all the satisfaction of doing just that. So yeah, thanks.
Ram, I'd like to come to you with the next one because we were shooting a show recently where we had Michelin chefs, and they told me, Indian Michelin chefs around the world said that sometimes telling the story of how they got there and how that food was prepared is not always told articulately or the right way when we're telling the world that story, because we don't wear a lot of that as a badge of pride when we're talking about Indian food, for example. Now, when we come back to content, we see maybe Korean shows and Korean cinema doing so well. Is there even an intention or that ambition for us to be able to talk more openly, perhaps as even producers, when we're creating that content, to be able to tell the story for the rest of the world? More Indian content going global? Is that a conversation that needs to be had?
So first, thank you for getting Vikram and me on we feel inclusive that you have us on a women's panel. So thank you, Ajita, for getting some men onto this. We promise not to do any mansplaining.
It was her request to have me here as well.
But my roots are in advertising. I have done content. We've done Nirja, we've done Arya, we've done other shows and movies. But what happened in advertising was that we had something called the Cannes Advertising Film Festival. And we were also hungry to win that award. And that became so much part of the competition that we began making work that was just necessarily international. And so we were also greedy to try and get that. And I feel maybe one of the things that we need for content is to get out of our own little pond and start feeling a little more greedy about audiences which are not just in Jaipur and Lucknow, and where we are told that we must actually also go to. And I feel that competitiveness hasn't yet happened, okay, within our industry, because there is nobody actually pushing you to say, okay, listen, you're going to compete with the world. Like when in advertising, we were competing with Brazil, we were competing with Thailand, and therefore automatically, which is not to say that we were not rooted. We were very, very rooted, but we were doing work that we wanted recognized internationally, because that was like our brownie point. So I think that's something that we maybe need in content, because we are actually quite happy getting an Indian audience. I think with Korea, what happened was that there is a content culture. There's a soft kind of a orange economy, which this time when we were at Waves, which was in one of these halls. And I think that the government actually is trying to support us to get to this orange economy. And I think that conversation is hopefully also going to, it's no longer make in India, it's now create in India. And I think that create in India is something which we're now getting a little more courage to say, okay, create in India so that you can speak to the world. So,
Jyoti, you want to chime in?
Yes, I think we get given the example of, Korean content and how it blew up, globally. It wasn't by accident. It wasn't, just something that happened absolutely organically. But the Korean government put systematic intention, resources, and money behind Korean culture. So whether it's Michelin stars, whether it was their food, whether it was their fashion, whether it was K-pop, whether it was creating those stars, making them part of mainstream culture. So they got accepted in America. So it took a systematic effort and resources to make that whole thing happen. And then, of course, the K-pop stars started featuring in Netflix shows, and that whole sort of became a self-fulfilling proposition, and Korean content sort of blew up. So for our, to give stats, Hollywood sort of makes, say 60 to 70% of their money outside of the US. We make the reverse. So international markets for us is, say, 30% of our revenue, and 70% of our revenue is from India. So for us to get to that level of mainstream acceptance, and for us to break out of the diaspora, and for films like Lapata Ladies to, go win the Oscar and be consumed by, 150 countries around the world, we need, a lot more backing than just the effort of an odd company.
So just to build on that, this is very interesting that it's pertinent, because we're not just talking about problems, we're also coming up with solutions on this panel here. How do we really work towards that? You said, of course, there was a push from government in Korea. Let's learn from some of those
So the
those
food
examples.
you said. So we start with, if your Michelin star Indian cooks are not, chefs are not feeling good about being Indian Michelin star chefs, we need to change that. Food, fashion, content. So it's a whole ecosystem. It's about wearing our country and our culture on our sleeve and celebrating it with the world. And we need the government as well as the industry to rally around this.
Ajita?
I would, pose the same question to you, Vikram. So when we're talking about taking Indian content to the global diaspora, one thing we notice is most of the global content companies, they own their IPs. But India is still a market where largely content is commissioned. So what do we need to do differently? And what kind of a mindset change does it require, for us to start owning the IP? What do we need to do differently?
IP isn't a single-use product. IP inherently stands for long-term value of a property. We tend to think that it's anchored in content and films and shows, and that's become the sort of tunnel vision to how we've started viewing IP. IP has several layers to it. To begin with, ownership of IP comes in with financial wherewithal to be able to hold on to what you're producing or distributing, seeing long-term potential in that. To solve that, you need structured financial capabilities available throughout the ecosystem, throughout the value chain. The second part is the utility value of that IP. I have this question that I ask lots of filmmakers. What are you going to do with this IP? I remember about 10 to 15 years ago, there was this, when holding on to intellectual property rights and derivative rights was sort of catching on and becoming a conversation. The one question I would ask is, what's your plan with this? It's not a bankable product in its truest sense. IP emerges from the ability to extend and leverage it. To your point, there is a yes and a no to it. Is it true that in Hollywood or globally, producers or creators hold on to this IP. That's actually not true. Some of the biggest franchises in the world are institutionally owned by studios, by platforms, and that doesn't happen in India because we've never been driven by franchise building storytelling or IP building storytelling. Adding a 2 to a film title or adding a returns to a film title isn't really IP building. So it starts from what's the content perspective. The MCU did not emerge overnight. It's a 22-year effort from scratch to build a universe. IP is going to be about the stories that we tell and how we can give long-term legs to that. And if there is value, I see no reason why ownership or even the right kind of sharing. We are working with Netflix and Monika on a wide variety of content, and I'm happy to tell you that this doesn't even come up as a concern, because if that turns out well, why would there not be an extension? So I think there isn't a single answer that defines why IP is not being held by Indian producers versus or creators versus the West. I think it's the objective of the IP that's getting created. That matters.
And we've been able to hold on to 100% of our IP. So, you know.
You're also talking about building global franchises. That's what came out in our reporting when we did that story. So would you like to talk about it?
Holding on to IP, like he said, is platforms are not prescribing anything. It's about finding the right story. So if a studio has the wherewithal to make the financial investment, put their money where their mouth is, make a compelling story, and ride the risk of a platform not licensing it or licensing it, then the studio can own its IP and still have a collaborative relationship with the platform. But really, this is just semantics. Where the effort has to go is in creating compelling worlds, compelling characters, franchises that outlive one outing, and creating a story that has legs to travel. We don't do 360-degree like merchandising. We don't send mugs, t-shirts, gaming, theme parks. So I don't think we have scratched the tip of the iceberg in terms of what we can do. And that's not because you can take a non-compelling story and start selling mugs around it. Those characters have to create that kind of, I go back to pop culture, become that important in pop culture, and people would want to keep those mugs and buy those mugs and wear those t-shirts. So I think a lot of, we tend to get transactional where, a lot of producers, when we create content because you're borrowing on interest and you want to get rid of the film as soon as possible, it's a trading mentality. As and when more consolidation happens, which it is happening, and storytellers are able to focus on storytelling, and there are other people to sort of put the structure around it, more focus will go in more rooted stories and world building and character building that will outlive that one outing.
Kiran, Jyoti mentioned...
Also, like Vikram was rightly saying, there has to be a business case for an IP. Not everything is an IP. It's a story. And what the value of that world is, what are you going to do with it, what is the pure business value of extension of that world. Copyright is different from IP. So, and franchise is different from both. So it's really important, it's very nuanced, and we tend to roll all words into one. If I have to give you an example of us at Netflix, so much of our content is actually, the IP is not owned by us. In fact, there is more content where we don't own the IP than where we do. When we lean into an idea, from the get-go, and we are there to enable the creators, the producers, take 100% of the risk and back them, and take it from that entire journey of building it into a story, developing it, and creating it, marketing it, and then it comes. Even after that, streaming platforms have a huge distribution cost, which I think no one understands. The value that you create something at, on top of that rests everything that you do at the streamer's end, the whole infrastructure of the streamer. Even to stream something from the CDNs, from where the signal goes. If you click play and you say, I want to watch this, there is a signal that goes along the network. From the CDNs, it comes back. It comes to that network close to your home. You pay the entire value. What we as consumers, if I'm an audience, what I pay is from my house to that closest point. But that whole journey and the number of languages, subbing and dubbing has become one of the biggest reasons why stories are traveling. 70% of consumption on Netflix of stories, and I'm talking about the whole world, not just India, 70% of stories on Netflix per se are consumed in subs and dubs, which means it's like, when you see the map of the globe, and you see the flights going across, we've all seen that map, that's how storytelling happens on Netflix. That is the visual, the way stories are traveling across cultures, across languages. You don't even know who's watching what, where, and actually getting inspired, getting moved. People are, opening restaurants of different, now Indian food has been very popular everywhere, but you go now, the locations people talk about, they talk so much more about food, whether it's Korean here, it's Indian everywhere. They are spotting stories, talent. So I think there's a power in just making stories travel. It's the value chain. At what point do you support an idea? If it's theatrical films, like Jyoti said, and many more, it depends. What amount of risk can you share, and what is the worth of that IP that you want to hold on to? So I think it's important to think that through, be very clear about it, and partnership can happen in many ways.
What I'm gathering from that is the right story matters. I think that was the crux of what you were saying earlier as well. And I just want to segue into something that we have to talk about. The influence of technology on creating content, whether we're talking about AI, everyone likes to talk about it, or social media, UGC. And some of the content, a lot of the top platforms have acquired, and even the talent pool we're talking about, now social media stars are finding their way on a lot of these platforms in different shapes and forms. Kiran, I want to get your thoughts on it, because is that something that has truly democratized how content is created? We know people who've made full-length films on iPhones and smartphones now. Technology is changing the paradigm altogether. How much has it really, changed that inertia, or changed the entry level for everyone, democratized the content space?
I think it absolutely has democratized creation of content, but more than that, I think technology has changed our DNA. I mean, us as people, I feel we have, in many ways, technology has become an extension of the way we function, of the way we think. And when we think about entertainment today, I feel it's been affected so much. The way we are has been affected by social media so much that entertainment, I think, theatrical, how we say theatrical films are struggling or everybody is moving. I think it's social media more than anything else that's challenging our consumption of anything. Because I think people are finding that dopamine hit much more easily with a reel or a short or something on YouTube or on TikTok or wherever it is that the rest of the world spends those 5 minutes in the loo or on the train, than struggling between theatrical and streaming. I think theatrical and streaming are very much on one side of the creation of what I like to call either entertainment or media. It's become content because of the number of people now in this vast pool because of technology who are able to create something wherever they are. It's wonderful that it gives voice to people anywhere, and people are able to be creative with the littlest and most simple tools, which are actually very complex when you think about it. A smartphone really is a mini computer, but it's wonderful in that, because I think it's given a lot of joy to a lot of people. It's given incomes to so many people, and honestly, I think we are influenced. Our industries are definitely influenced by social media stars, by social media trends. The challenge really is what are we going to do with the abundance of this technology? It's available. Is it making our storytelling any better? Are we able to communicate better with each other? Because I do think that art or entertainment was invented, quote unquote, so that we could communicate with each other. We could connect with each other. We had things to share. We had things to, laugh about or grieve about or get scared about together. And whether technology has made that, it's made that experience almost so easy that we are now, sort of impatient for the next thing. And it's almost deadened our sense of wonder, this kind of ease of being able to get that little fix of whatever it is within 3 seconds and 10 seconds, which is what social media has done. So for us as people who are creating, it's going beyond that 5 and 10 second barrier and appealing to that human side of people to say, okay, stay with me, let's be in a room together and share this experience, let's watch this story or listen to my story, watch my story, So yes, it has democratized, yes, it's made it much easier, and it's also made it much harder, and it's changing us as people. And I think that's something that we all need to, across all the, divides that we make between, creators, distributors, exhibitors, streamers, we need to come together and talk about this and talk about how people, as people, where do we see this going? Because technology is just going to keep making those leaps and bounds ahead, and AI is going to put many, many people out of work or change the way we work completely. So I think it's a time to regroup and look at what technology is doing to us as people.
That's a fascinating point, Monika. I want to build on that. Does that then become...
I'm just going to ask
It does deserve a round of applause,
yes,
though.
Yes, it does.
It does.
But I'm going to debate this for a moment, because I'm one of the rare people who knows where the word technology comes from. Okay? It comes from a Greek word called technos. And the word technos comes from art. Every technology in the world has liberated art. Whether it was sound for movies, whether it was in 1960s when we had cinema verite, everything is meant to liberate us. Okay, right now, we at Madhvani Films have just made a virtual reality film, because I'm very frustrated by the idea that nobody knows how to use VR. Okay, AI, of course, we're now all using, but what about virtual reality? There's something which has come to us, which actually is going to allow us to escape the attention deficit economy by actually making it immersive. And it's going to take us away from this, the second dopamine. And why are we not using it? So we've just made a film on VR to tell you what it feels like to be immersed. And the reason is because I want to embrace technology. I think that's going to liberate us like crazy. So I want to go out there and say, yes for technology.
100%. I think we all should.
We all agree, though. Yes for technology.
Yes, fascinating. There's a reason that the world's biggest companies are investing in some of those emerging technologies, just like VR, AR, and XR. But Monika, I want to understand the flip side to it, because Ram already played devil's advocate there, but I want to do it either way. Is it largely that the attention deficit economy that he coined it so well as, does that become a challenge for platforms like Netflix? Because all of us Gen Z and millennials with the attention span of a goldfish who just want to swipe up and get that dopamine hit, now you need to keep us engaged on your platforms, be it gaming, be it getting wrestling on the platform. Does that then require you to huddle up and reinvent?
I think we have to fundamentally understand, I agree with Kiran on the point that we are not realizing that social media is changing us far more than any long format storytelling or any medium of art or storytelling. I think that 5 minute that we spoke about, or few seconds, actually ends up becoming doom scrolling, and you don't know where 1 hour went when you thought that you didn't have time to watch a great film. You thought you'll watch something small, which you'll just kill time versus spend time. So I think it's really important for us to differentiate, and really work very intentionally, passionately, creatively, use technology in the right way to elevate storytelling so that more people want to spend time, quality time, finding meaningful stories and getting that, satisfaction. And also, not getting that little fix that can come from anything, which I agree is deadening our senses. And there is, by the way, there's a lot of good stuff on social media. Businesses run, so I don't want to by any means, like Kiran, I think both of us said the same thing. It's not that things are all bad, but it's really important to be, to see what do we need to do to tell better stories. I think it is that time. Yes, at every point in time, some medium or the other is challenged in a certain decade. And when that happens, you think that something else, something new is coming, it's going to gobble this up, take over. I think it's important to know that ultimately stories that touch people, that matter, that become a part of conversation, how do you nurture them? How do you nurture new voices? I think it's an opportunity to use certain mediums, etc., to find newer voices that can actually come and tell those stories that can engage people a lot more. So I think we are, in a way, we are spoiled for choices with new creators also coming, but we have to channelize them into telling the kind of stories that can engage people a lot more than those few seconds worth of a laugh, or that's also there and it's good. But I do think that, and I want to give the example of Squid Game actually, that's the best kind of story, long format that can happen. From the moment it dropped, the next day itself, it was trending in 93 countries. It has just gone crazy in the way people are watching. And by the way, it is not a mindless show where people are being killed. It is a show about social injustice, inequality, poor people in Korea who did not know how to pay their loans. And it is about human greed and what we can do. So all the themes that matter as a human condition are in that show. But it is scripted so beautifully, and across 3 seasons, the audience has grown and grown. So when you tell stories, whether it's a Lapata Ladies, it's a Squid Game, or any kind of story, or a Hira Mandi, or an IC814, stories where people get to experience something powerful, different, that engages them, they do become a part of pop culture, and we like to call it the Netflix effect. It just lights up the global map, and it's thrilling to see that, but really these stories have done that.
Ram, I would come to you now. So there are newer models coming up. So you have traditionally platforms which have been subscription driven. They're moving to advertising driven. And also you hear about TV Plus coming up in a big way, so which I'm told is, from whatever I have understood, it's slightly more expensive than the traditional television content, but it's less expensive than the streaming content. So, with all these new kind of models coming up, how would storytelling evolve? Would it have an impact on the quality of storytelling that you do?
So, about 2 years ago when we were doing Arya, then we were told by the channel to put collar ka mirror ka shot. Okay, so because of brand placement, and we were told to put collar, mirror in the shot where Shushmita is meant to wash her face. So I said, I come from advertising, so I said, listen, I don't think that either Shushmita or the show or Arya or Kohler is going to be happy with this. But I had to do it because there was a lot of money coming our way. And then I said, is there another way that we can do this? And in the last 6 months, I have now started having conversations with channels where I'm saying, can we embrace the brand? Can we actually make the 22-minute ad film? Can we make the 45-minute ad film? Can we make Barbie? Can we make Lego? Can we make, many years ago, we had a show called Meri Dad Ki Maruti. And if we can make the brand in the center of the content, and the conversations that we are now having with the platforms and with brands and with agencies, is to say, listen, let's not apologize for the brand. Let's not give it so that it becomes like, acha, abhi ad aa gaya. No, embrace it. Let's go out there and actually create content, because if Barbie can do it, Lego can do it, then why can't we? Why can't we be here and actually make content which is brand in the center of it? Without that, the content doesn't exist. And this is where the conversations that I feel, and the more I'm having these conversations, whether with platforms or with brands, both people are interested in actually going out there. And I don't think that the public actually has a problem with this, because I think that's a Western notion where, oh, listen, it has to be, brand placement where you don't know it was brand placement. No, I say, go for it fully. So this is what I'm now, the conversations that I'm having, and they're very positive on both sides.
Vikram, I would now come to you. What is your view about this TV plus content that everyone is talking about? In an era when people want high quality products, will TV plus content really work?
Ajita, I have a fundamental problem with us as manufacturers labeling what the audience wants to watch. TV plus is a term we've coined within the industry. The audience wants the content that they think is worth their time and money. And that content has to not just compete with other forms of stories, theaters, but it has to compete with time that people spend today eating out, enjoying live events, spending time with friends, or simply the pressures of their work. Content that has wide access. A story like Lapata Ladies finds an audience which is far above and beyond what you would expect. A show like Squid Game finds resonance in a non-English market the world over, including India. So I think stories that have greatest access to the maximum amount of viewers is what everybody wants. As a producer, I want that content to go to theaters as much as I want that content to go on streaming, as much as I want that content to go on television. So I think screens need to stop mattering. The idea is anybody to succeed in India needs to go out to those big masses. It cannot be the purview of the top 10 cities where we continue delivering those shows, because our competition is not just with the next story that's there or the next Friday's release. So I believe stories that have resonance wide and deep in this country are the stories that will work. So if we call them TV plus or film minus, I don't think that's the benchmark to look at it. I think these mathematical formula don't apply. We were talking about attention deficit economies. I completely hate that word. It's not attention deficit. We are competing with so many other things. If people wanted 10 seconds or 2 minutes of reels, why are they spending 8 hours binging shows? Why are they going to theaters and watching a 3.5-hour film? It's the content that is compelling them to go there, and to succeed, like I said, in India, you have to go reach out to the real India. And if that's called TV plus, so be it.
Jyoti, it's interesting. It's interesting since you're talking about, and I love how the attention deficit economy has become the centerpiece of this conversation. Thank you for bringing that up again. But to understand the audience, the masses, insights coming in, all the tech, all the resources, it would help to be at a large group like you are, to really be able to leverage that technology and those insights, because to tell those stories, we need to ensure that that input is working as output. Does that make a huge difference as well?
Sure, you're talking about data mining, but going back to the tech part of it. See, technology is such a wide sweeping word, and we generally confuse artificial intelligence with ChatGPT. ChatGPT is not, the end all of artificial intelligence. I dream of a world where, technology will, and artificial intelligence and other parts of technology will enable us to make Mahabharata. We've been wanting to make Mahabharata for years in our country, but it has never been viable. But technology is the only thing that can become an enabler, and we can tell stories in India and take them to the world.
So we've just made the Mahabharata on virtual reality using AI.
Yes, I saw that. I was going to mention.
So we've just done that. And so when you said it, I said, okay, I better say it because otherwise nobody will know I've done it.
So see, there you go. Someone's making Ramayana. So I think technology, she talked about dubbing and subtitling it in millions of languages. Technology is going to make all of these things efficient. We always sort of scar technology as going to take away jobs, it's going to take away this. We're not going to start writing scripts on ChatGPT. I think technology is a very strong enabler. Data allows us to understand consumers better so that we are never losing pulse of the audience. If you lose pulse of the audience, it's a square peg, round hole. You're telling a story to yourself and there's no one else to listen or engage with that story. So, so that's the role of data. But I think technology, which is a very, very broad term, will evolve. I think skilling, will have to happen in a very large scale where people will have to skill themselves to, use that technology. So I see a very bright future for our industry.
But then I want to circle back to our previous point on IP, Ram.
What Jyoti was saying is that I think because we're in the business of feelings, and I don't think that AI can actually predict the feeling that I should actually give you. So because I'm in what they call as ras nishpatti, right? I'm basically making sure that I press that emotion in you. And how will AI be able to actually tell what emotion I should generate? It's generating many things, but currently I don't think it's generating a feeling.
Ram, that's one piece, but just to build on that, we're going to get back to the point on IP then. When you talk about AI-generated content and the promise of it, the biggest concern globally has been IP infringement. Where are those data sets coming from? Where are those large language learning models really being trained upon? So, Ram, was that a concern when you were coming up with something like the Mahabharata in using AI?
Well, first we've used, we've done the Bhagavad Gita on VR using AI. But I've been reading a lot about, obviously everybody's reading about data swamping and data crawling and data and AI hallucinations. And I'm very excited and interested. It's a bit, so I'm sorry, I'm going to spend 1 minute. I don't mean to be taking up too much time, but this is very exciting because what you're really talking about is the karma and the past life of that AI data. Okay, and therefore the many past lives and the karma of that AI data and what is the quality of that karma and what is the quality of that data is actually what is going to define what is the quality of that species. So I think that's really where we are.
Let's simplify this argument. Yes. It's like, you've seen Lion King. So the argument is the exact Lion King. Who owns the copyright for that? However, there may be a technology company that has learned how to construct a lion. So is that learning propriety or the end product propriety? So, you work for a company and then you go to another company. When you go to another company, you cannot steal the data of the previous company. But what you've learned is yours to keep and apply.
Well put,
So
Ajita.
just one last question. The time's up. I can see that, but just one last question. I can't.
But you better make it to a woman and not a man.
So, there's a whole debate around theaters becoming passé and, the streaming taking over. And the recent film that Amir has released, he talked about, he's very clear that he would not release a film. He would release a film only in theater and it will not hit the streaming platforms anytime soon. So just wanted to understand how important is a theatrical release for a filmmaker like you?
I truly believe that what a theatrical experience gives you is something very primeval. It's kind of goes back to when human beings sat and in a cave together in the dark, watched shadows on the wall of the cave, felt something as the storyteller was telling them a story around a fire. It's something that is an experience, and I don't think anybody wants it to be, become redundant or go away. I think what has and probably will happen is that there is going to be a differentiation between the kinds of films that will definitely get a theatrical release, because there are so many platforms now that people consume creative content on. So I feel that this is something that we've time again felt that theaters are going to be, dead. I don't think they ever will be, as long as human beings want to be together. They want to actually have that communal experience, laugh together, stand up and leave as the credits are coming up, discussing a film. It's about human connections, and I think that we are all in the business of human connections, and I don't think any of us want the theatrical experience to die.
Vikram, do you have a point of view? How important is a theatrical release for you?
I'm proudly going to do that. Community experiences are important, but I don't know. I'm a believer that the speed at which technology is changing, we could be making our own movies for all you know. So I think people are going to go to theaters if the reason is compelling. If the reason is to stay at home and watch something, I think that's going to be the best experience. We don't know. We don't know where this is headed.
So I think we need to close this discussion now.
Also,
So
I
thank
think
you
we
so
have
much.
to remember, we are talking about movie making. Theatre is a space to experience it, which is beautiful. It's a social gathering. It's like going to the games, going to, sporting events. So movie making is something that is here to stay. Storytelling, who experiences a great story where, is something which will be a matter of personal choice, and also how they want to experience it, in terms of, is it something which is so wonderful that you want to sit and laugh with people, you want to get scared together, what's that experience that you're looking for? And I think the most important thing is to just focus on telling great stories. Audiences will come, they will find those stories. There is no challenge of discoverability today. It's really about how well are we making our stories, and what are the cultural and emotional truths that we are delivering through them.
I just want to say at the end of this, 3 cheers for this panel, because you all started off saying all roads lead to Monika, and she ended the discussion. A huge round of applause. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And I will now not use AI, because this creator will step this side, and thank you all yet again. And thank you for being a lovely audience. We're going to prep for the next session. A huge round of applause for our panel, please.